I wanted to give everybody a first look at what Richard built here. And we're not going to go too much into detail today. I just simply want to show you the program and some of the features that he did here. On the left, again, you got the big monitor. On the right, you got all the pillars. Let's go ahead and get closer. We'll take a look at the pillars. We have a dedicated computer for this, so no messing around, plenty of hard drive space. And then we're going to transfer it over as we go so we can get Richard all the data he needs. Guys, these pillars are awesome. We're going to be able to put the Graviflyer right in the center and be able to pick up everything. So let's go ahead and take a look at the screen now. I just want to show you some of the features in this. All the stuff that's proprietary, nobody gets to see, only Richard. That's the deal. We get to use the system. We get to do some data work for them. So here's the dashboard. We got our sensor geometry, the ultrasonic. You got the inputs, all the pillars there. We don't have any of them programmed to do what we want to do yet. The phase tuning, diagnostics. When we get to it, we can stay out of the logs and replies. We'll just go to the plasma labs. Right here we got a field analyzer. Oh man, look at this. We got our oscilloscope is right here. Our phase analysis, magnitude analysis, magnetic data. Now that's interesting. We all want to know what the magnets are doing. We all want to know what the fields are doing. And if there's any data that's going on in this, that's amazing. Ultrasonic. What's the ultrasound doing? Is there more than one type of ultrasound going on in the device? That's going to be an interesting thing there. It's going to pick up all the data from that. We're going to get thermal data. Anything that goes on there that creates heat, it's going to give us our temperature difference. That's going to be good. In real time, guys, the reason the pillars are all pointed into the center is because it's going to give us real-time information as it goes. So if we need to make a correction on the spot, boom, we can do it, get the data to see it right away, and then we can smooth this thing out. That's the whole goal here. We got audio detection in there, RF data right here. We're going to be able to look at everything that's going on in RF. I know it's a big thing for everybody when they talk about Tesla coils, so let's see it. Let's see what's going on. This one I really like, the gas data. We're going to be able to see exactly what's going on in the gases. Again, we have the convex mirror with the camera that'll be set up simultaneously with this. So we're going to be able to see the gas pressure as well, along with which gases they are producing. That's going to be a huge thing in there. Microwave data. We're getting any microwaves out of it. When we get to the megahertz, are we getting to the microwave? Yeah. LiDAR. Man, we didn't skimp on anything here. We got volts. That'll be connected in here. Some impedance data. And we'll go out of that. I don't know what that is right now. We'll just go back to our plasma lab here, go back to our dashboard. You can see the cool things. I mean, look at that. Just imagine that Graviflyer sitting right in the center and you're getting all that information, stuff that nobody sees. Guys, the mirror in itself will show us exactly where the waves are going. So you want to see all the frequency, how it ties in. Think of the levitation with the little balls that they put in there and the little drops of water. Now just think about that in distance control between plates. Where is the ultrasound hitting that piezo disc to the plates themselves? That's a big, big opportunity to see that with that mirror. But then now we get to see the effect of it, why it's doing it. We're not just something that's kind of hokey put together. This thing is way awesome. It's going to tell us every bit of that. The thermal data. So when we look at the thermal data on this kind of stuff, you have to remember there's radiation at all times. So just like the top of a Tesla coil, it's putting out radiation. How do you know? Well, when you put the temperature gauge on it and it reads that it's room temperature or slightly below room temperature, and then you go to touch it and it burns your hand, that's radiation. That's not static electricity. Static electricity, you touch it, it puts your hair up in the sky, it does funny things. It doesn't do that. It's radiation. So this right here is basically going to be able to tell us the thermals on it. What we're going to find is the plates are going to be cold. And then the outside fields from it, where it builds a magnetic field on the sheath that it goes out to, that's going to have a thermal signature on it. And then we're going to see the cold layer come in as our double layer, and that's going to be right there where our ion layer comes in, or our reverse to the magnetic field, if you want to say. So diamagnetic is the field that goes into the double layer as a trap. It's going to show us this. That's what's interesting. The audio, that's always a big thing. What happens in the Tesla coil is it gets feedback into the coil. When it gets feedback into the coil, it comes down to a hertz level inside the Tesla coil itself. For those of you who do not know how that works, okay, when you start thinking about this and you get feedback that goes in there and everything, an AC is a feedback. We're using a DC Tesla coil. It's going to work just like a AC flyback would work. You're going to get a reverse signature going back into it, which is going to pull out like an AC level understanding. Understand when that thing switches to the AC mode, it goes back into the Tesla coil. That's where it's coming from. That's why we picked up 20 hertz a long time ago when we did the testing on this. That's why this is important. We want to see exactly that we picked that up and that we have an AC flow going on, because as anybody knows, a piezo disc gives you the AC flip and it makes it a big AC field, which changes all your fields from a DC volume to an AC amplification to aluminum, which is what your driving force is on this thing. So let's see, RF data, yeah, same thing. Inside the Tesla coil, outside the Tesla coil. The outside of the Tesla coil, guys, is RF. The inside, that is your Tesla hairpin circuit. That's your diamagnetic. That's what plays on the ion level. Let's see, let's look at this, gas. Why would it have different gas? If anybody's played with high voltage, you understand that you're going to get a color of gas that comes out of it, and it's your O3 coming out. Now, what most people don't realize is you're going to get different colors based on different frequencies that goes into the high voltage itself. So normally it'd look like a purple. You see it in yellow. You see it in blue. You can see it in green. Green is the optimal color for what we're looking for here. You see it in blues. All of this stuff comes out in your high voltage, and it's how gas is done. You see different colors of gas means it has a different frequency. If a gas has a different frequency, it emits a different light. When it emits a different light, it has a different gas signature to it. The gas itself is different between each one. If you haven't figured it out yet, transmutation happens at the gas level. It breaks things down at the molecule level into a gas level and converts them back into a molecule level, and then changes how they put together themselves. So when we look at this stuff, you got to realize there's more information going on here, and we need to know the exact ones, because it builds out in layers between each gas layer and then the colors themselves. That's going to be truly important. Microwaves, I've seen 25 megahertz come out of that piezo. You say, well, it's only rated to go in the kilohertz. Well, it's a receiver. It's rated to go in the kilohertz as a transmitter. It picks it up in the megahertz as a receiver. So what's going on here? If you followed me before, the 3, the 6, the 9, how you're amplifying your energy, okay? Think about it. You're putting it in a harmonic value. multiply by 3, multiply by 6, multiply by 9, harmonics. Put it in there, you get beat frequencies. Beat frequencies are created from harmonics. As soon as you put a harmonic into two separate things and they match each other, you get a beat frequency. You amplify all of the beat frequencies and the amount of energy into your system is huge. So why would it say 25 megahertz? Because that is your amplification level of what's going on. This is why people who try to build things with the megahertz in the center first fail. Because they didn't realize the process of how it's done to get you there. Once you realize the process of how to get there, now you build it out the correct way and it gives you what you're looking for in the center. Just an understanding. It's what happens when you build things mechanically all the time instead of sitting around and mathematically figuring it out. Not that it's bad, I like math myself, to be honest with you. Oh man, the voltage, this one here is the important part, the impedance. Now a lot of people realize this. An ion to a magnetic field is impedance. If you take a wire, your magnetodielectric is running on the outside of the wire. Your wire itself has ions in it. Your ions are the impedance to that. Why? Because two ions couple together to make your magnetodielectric. That's why. They're always trying to couple with the magnetodielectric, so therefore it becomes impedance in your system. It slows it down. Knowing that, now you have to know the impedance level of what's going on. Because everything in your layering, if the center dot is where the Graviflyer is, and that's pure energy, and that's your point that it has no weight in it, you're going to need to know the impedance layer on each sheath layer as you build it out. Perfect to understand that. It all falls in lines with the exact theory of equilibrium like we're coming up with. And the cool thing is we have a self-correction code already built. Be able to fix all this in no time. As soon as we get all the data it needs, it'll put it out for us, and Richard will be able to give us a huge point of view of what's going on. So important, man. All right, that's enough of looking at the screen. That's what's going on there. Let's look at the pillars for a minute. Yeah, these things are, it's a lot of work, man. That is a ton of work going on in there. You know, you don't really realize till you start soldering everything out and looking at it. You got all kinds of small systems working all together. Just to get there, you get your camera here, you got your sensors right here, be able to pick up the rotational value. Right here, you got your speakers on here. Whole bunch more information, guys. There's different ways to put it together. That whole board right there, we're gonna have to go back and look at it. There's an Arduino Uno in the center in order to bring information to it. More stuff on the board there on how to build it. There's a sensor array. Remember, Sean made that sensor array to be able to tell you what the rotational speed of things are. That's this right here. So on some of them you'll see this one has a different sensor in it. We'll take a look over here at these guys. And we got different sensors going on here. This one right here is putting out a laser, and you can see that right there. We're going to be able to line everything up with it. Part of the system. Up here we got another device moving, guys. I won't tell you I know everything about these right away, but I'm just showing you so you see it. You got more than one on there. There's 3 of them that have that. He's gone all out. It's got everything that you could look for in one of these. Let me just tell you, we got USB extensions for the PC in order to do this. And I don't know if I have enough. No, I'm jokingly saying that I got enough. But there's a ton here. I mean, I got two cards added to this computer just for the USB for all these pillars. And I still had to use a bunch of stuff from the computer for its USB just to get this up and going. So definitely not a laptop adventure. It has to be on a PC when we do this. There are still some things right here that need to be set up. This is why we didn't get data on them when we looked at it. Right there is our voltage and our impedance on the right in the red. Then we have our setups right there for the top of these for antenna arrays for the RF, I believe it is. Those have to be put on. That's in the center in blue. And then we have right here on the left, that's our gamma. So it's going to be able to tell us if we're getting X-rayed and stuff like that. See if we have a whole bunch of stuff going on, which is going to be very important. You can see right there. Yeah, right there on it. There's that little signature on there. You know what that is. It's a whole system, guys. This thing, besides my bad camera work, is absolutely beautiful. The only critique I ever have is that spiderweb looking thing on the back. I'm old, it's distracting. I'm gonna have to figure out how to turn that off. Once we have that, beautiful. So, I think, Richard, this is an ultimate system, man. And you definitely knocked it out of the park, brother. If you guys are in the comment section, give Richard some love, man. He did a big solid for us here and taking care of this, man. And I can't thank him enough. I'm happy to do the data testing on it for him. And then he's got a definite real product here. So hats off to him, man. And I hope it does well and everything he wants it to do. But for us, this is just out of this world amazing. So thumbs up, Richard. Lightspeed out there, brother. Love you, man. Awesome work.